Kamala Harris has earned the backing of enough state delegates to clinch the Democratic presidential nomination. Here's what she had to say on a campaign call on Friday.
We are going to win this election, and it is going to take all of us, whether it is making calls, connecting with our communities, engaging online, or even talking with people where we go every day.
Well, with about 2 weeks to go before the Democratic National Convention, who will Harris pick to solidify the presidential ticket? To discuss this and more, let's bring in our... Also in Washington, D.C., Douglas Sloan is principal at the National Capital Strategy Group, and Rena Shah is a political strategist and commentator, also right here with us in the studio. Thanks, everyone, for being with us. Douglas, let me start with you. Kamala Harris has all but sewn up the Democratic nomination. Just a few formalities to go through. Now the focus, of course, as I said, turns to who she will pick as her vice presidential running mate. There are some names being mentioned right now. The two names that are being mentioned, Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania and Tim Walz. There's also speculation about the Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. Where do you see this heading?
Well, Pennsylvania is a key swing state the Democrats are going to have to win in order to win in November. So I'm thinking that the campaign would be leaning toward Shapiro. However, there's a little pushback on Shapiro by some of the more progressive wings in the party, wing of the party, because of his stance on Israel. So there's some talk about, well, you know, let's maybe try to go with the candidate that's going to create the least amount of resistance and go with Governor Walz from Minnesota. However, Minnesota is a thoroughly blue state. So my bet in terms of being a strategy would be to go with Shapiro out of Pennsylvania.
Douglas, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, once the Democratic convention is over, one thing starts settling down and people start asking those tough questions about where you stand on these issues that I mentioned a moment ago. Once, as Rena said, the wind in her sails is no longer there, what happens then?
I don't know if that's going to be the case. When you say once the wind in her sails is no longer there, we are in August now. Obviously, the wind has not left her sails in the past week with $200 million raised and 170,000 new volunteers. And we're showing a separation of support for her with black voters, with young voters. And now everyone is talking about the VP pick. Who is she going to choose for the VP pick? So the Dems are doing a masterful job at kind of keeping her in the news and in on the tip of everyone's tongue. And you have to remember, we're going to go straight into the convention. And then we're in August, which is traditionally a kind of dead month for most people. Many people are on vacation. But then September, early voting starts. Some of those overseas ballots get sent out. They start voting in the second week of September. So for all intents and purposes, we are in the election in September. So we're really on a very condensed schedule here. And the time really works in her favor to just kind of keep this momentum going straight through the election and into November.
Right, Douglas, I'm going to talk about something that the media is talking a lot about, that Trump is talking a lot about, and that is Kamala Harris's race. Let's listen to some of what the former president had to say.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman.
I respect
either one. College.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way.
So Douglas, what do you make of this focus on her race, on her ethnic background?
It's insanity. This is going back to the Trump playbook of trying to divide people and making very divisive statements. I don't know what his campaign was thinking, sending him in front of the National Association of Black Journalists, a bunch of educated journalists that know Kamala's background, that know all of Trump's dirty tricks from his playbook. Kamala is a woman from Oakland who grew up in Oakland, who attended one of the most, if not the most prestigious historical black universities in the country, and pledged the oldest black Greek letter sorority in the country. And then spent summers with her father in Jamaica. So she checks more black boxes than most people. And to have Trump, of all people, question her race is not doing anything but throwing his tractors.
Douglas, I'm going to turn to some other issues now. Let's turn to foreign policy, and how important it will be for Kamala Harris to separate herself from her current boss's policy, especially with those policies that Jackie mentioned a moment ago in Gaza. I mean, this is a conflict that could play a decisive role in the way this election turns out because of voters in the Midwest, Muslim voters, who are very upset with the manner in which Biden has handled this.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember, and I think that this was brought up recently, that the vice president does not have a decisive role in what the president does for the most part. The president makes the decision on, what his policy going to be. The vice president doesn't say, well, no, I disagree with that and we should go this way.
But now that she is the candidate, will she have to come out and articulate a new policy, a different policy? It's going to be difficult. She's still in the administration. She's still the vice president.
Yeah. So she definitely will have to walk a tightrope in that regard, but in so much so that she also will have the opportunity to an extent to run as a challenger because she has not or will not have to eat all of Joe Biden's policies or baggage in this election. So she can run as a challenger against Donald Trump and all of his failed policies during his term, because again, the vice president is not calling the ball on policy. So yes, she has a great opportunity here to kind of reformulate her position on Israel and other issues along the border and controversies and so on and so forth, which could help in gender and work towards her favor with gaining new voters, gaining new support, gaining a much broader support than maybe Biden had because of these issues, because he's so tied to his initiatives regarding Israel and the border. So she really has, in my opinion, she has a great opportunity to kind of separate herself and find new support with a new policy. But yeah, she's definitely going to have to walk a tightrope in that regard because she still is vice president of the United States.
Okay, that's where we have to leave it. Thank you to all of you for being with us. That's it for this edition of The Heat. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C.